In this EcoBite, we have a very special guest. Dr. Kurt Buhlmann is here to tell us all about the important role opossums play in our ecosystem.
I have a North American Virginia opossum on my shoulder, and they're the only marsupial found in North America. They're really interesting critters, and they really are special, and they do not get the respect they deserve. Her name is Chomper, and she's used by the Savannah River Ecology Lab for their outreach program, and she's an ambassador for her species. She was rescued off the highway. Her mother was hit by a car, and there were 10 little babies in her pouch, but she's the surviving one here, and she's incredibly sweet. And so we've used her as an ambassador to tell people how neat these animals really are. Opossums are not predators and dangerous in neighborhoods. They really don't bother cats. They are sometimes attacked by dogs that are running loose. But opossums actually spend a lot of time eating things that we don't like. They eat cockroaches, they eat earthworms. I've seen them eat snails, land snails. And they just seem, sure, they will go and clean up a garbage can, and they're sleepy during the daytime. They're nocturnal animals, so they'll be out at night. I'll try not to take a bite out of my head now. But they're active at night, and they sleep most of the day. As a matter of fact, possums actually sleep up to 18 hours a day. So they sleep a lot of their lives away. They don't live that long. They are surprisingly short-lived for a mammal. And there's some research that's being done by folks at the Savannah River Ecology Lab now, as a matter of fact. And they found that the annual survivorship of a male possum might only be a year or two. So that they only survive 1 or 2 years in the wild. Female possums have up to 13 young. And possums are like kangaroos. They're marsupials, so the young are born in a very undeveloped state, and they climb into a pouch where they attach to a teat, and they grow from that point on. Sometimes later in the summer, people have seen a female opossum like this one with 5 or 6 or more little young ones looking like the size of mice just riding around on her back. And you are definitely thinking I have some snacks for you. I know that. Possums are really interesting mammals. They have actually 50 teeth in their mouth, which is more than any other North American mammal. Some other really neat facts, people worry about, oh, what would happen if I got bit by a possum? Well, it would hurt because they got 50 teeth, but they rarely, if ever, carry rabies. So they're one of the few mammals that do not carry rabies. They're supposedly nearly immune to rattlesnake bites, which is an unusual feature. And they eat a lot of things that we don't like ticks. They spend a lot of time eating ticks. So for those of us here in the South who are tired of having ticks climbing on us or stuck to us, think about that the next time you see an opossum on the road. And if you have an opportunity to try to avoid it with your car, please do, because they're just really neat animals, and they help clean up our neighborhood, and they serve a really neat role in the environment. She's a little thirsty. This is a little bit of yogurt. Possums, actually, they develop so quickly as youngsters. They're mature at 6 to 8 months of age, but they can actually suffer from a calcium deficiency and break bones easily. And so this one here is getting some calcium, some yogurt with a lot of calcium and vitamin D in it. So, and that's what she's happy with right now. Surprisingly, opossums are one of the shorter-lived mammals for a mammal of its size. Where a raccoon can live 10 or more years, opossums, believe it or not, are only survive, it seems, 1 or 2 years in the wild. And maybe they live 3 or 4 years in captivity, but they are short-lived. They must make up for that by the fact that they have young when they're 6 to 8 months of age. A female is mature, and she may have up to 13 babies. And if those babies survive and are reproducing at 6 to 8 months later, then you can see how the population might persist even if the adults don't live very long. They're gentle animals, and I think they take a lot of abuse in our human society. They get run over on roads, stray dogs will attack them, and they really don't have much defense against a large dog. But opossums do play dead, and it seems they do that when they're actually deeply afraid of something, and it's out of fear, not that something they actually will themselves to do, but they actually maybe pass out from fear, and that saves their lives in some instances. I know some folks think that an opossum tail is, oh, it's kind of gross, it's scaly, but you know, it's actually warm and smooth. It is not gross at all. It's something called prehensile too. As you can see, she's grabbing hold of my hand right here, and it's helping her balance on my shoulder. It's almost like they use it as a fifth appendage. When you see them run, that tail almost seems to be necessary for balance. They do not hang from trees and sleep by hanging from their tail. That is an old wives' tale, but they certainly use it to help them climb and help them balance. One of the things about opossums that make them fairly unique is, like us, they have fingers and prehensile thumbs, and there's few animals besides our other primate friends, relatives, that can actually do that. And you can see they are really good at gripping objects and holding on to them. Okay, and there we can see the pouch opening here, right there for the female. That's where the young would be weaned. They would be born, they're only the size of a rice grain when they're born, and then they go to the pouch, and they grow inside the pouch attached to a nipple. And there's 13 nipples, so if there's more young than that, they don't survive. She also has her opposable thumbs. You can see on her feet, and you can see how she's actually grabbing my thumb. One of the neat things about opossums is that they're what we call dimorphic, and that means that you can tell them apart by looking at them. I have a male in my arm right here, and Amanda has the female. And the males of the same size and age, have a much larger head. And they also have really long incisors. He's got yogurt on his face now, but you can see that compared to her face is much smaller, and his face is much, much bigger. You can see those big teeth on the big incisors on the male, and they're much smaller on the female. Opossums store energy in their tail, and on the right, this female has quite a thick tail base right there, whereas this male, who's been spending a lot of the breeding season running around looking for females, has burned up a lot of his energy, and his tail's a lot thinner than her tail is. One of the things we suspect with possums, their short lifespan, is the males spend that breeding season, that first summer, looking for females, and they're running through the landscape. When they are not social animals generally, and the males will fight when they encounter each other, so they don't spend time together, and the females are only receptive to mating once every 28 days, and at that point they're only receptive for 36 hours. And they'll accept a male, and let the male follow them around and even snuggle up in a little log cavity with them. And after that, they bite the males and they tell them to get lost. So the males are constantly running through the landscape, avoiding other males and looking for receptive females. So they seem to burn up a lot of energy, whereas the females take time to take care of themselves, eat their food, and don't seem to look bedraggled like the males do. Male possums are constantly marking, licking and marking, and they seem to like to find trees and branches that have lichens on them. For some reason, they're fascinated with licking and rubbing their heads on lichen-covered sticks. They'll pick up stuff, and I've seen them do this where she just puts something on her hind quarters. So she finds something that smells, and she's putting it on herself. She's marking herself with something.
Wow, that was a lot of information. I actually learned something very interesting today. I hope you've learned just as much and have grown to appreciate the opossums as much as I do. Remember, opossums are an important part of a healthy ecosystem, and they help to accomplish this by eating lots of things from roaches and ticks to dead animals using those 50 teeth. If you think about it, their search for food can be one of the main reasons we encounter them, and our actions can influence their behavior. Here are a few simple ways we can help to avoid any negative interactions with opossums. Let's make sure our trash is secured and emptied regularly. Opossums have a great sense of smell, and our stinky trash cans can be an attractive food source. If you happen to find an opossum in your trash can, please lay the can on its side for a good while to let the opossum come out, and try better in the future to keep the lid secured. If you have an outdoor pet, remember to not leave food out overnight. This can certainly be an attractant for opossums who are mainly active at night. An interaction could cause injury to your pet and the opossum if they fight over food, but remember that opossums rarely, if ever, get rabies. Do not throw food items out of the car window. This can attract opossums, as well as other wildlife, to the road where they can get hit. Even an apple core or a banana peel can attract animals to the road. It is best to wait until the vehicle is stopped and place any unwanted food items and other trash in the proper receptacle. Lastly, it is important to keep wildlife wild. One way for us to do that is to understand the important roles these animals play in our ecosystem and make sure we are good stewards of the environment.